Imagine living for years carrying a constant pain, one that affects not only your body but also your soul. Thea knows this all too well. Her knees have been prisoners of suffering that seemed endless, but when a monk reveals to her an ancient healing secret, her life takes an unexpected turn. In this video, you will discover how a simple ritual can release not only physical pain, but also the weight of emotional wounds we thought were forgotten. Get ready to dive into a story of deep transformation and learn how a humble oil can become the key to inner freedom. If you feel that your body speaks in silences filled with pain, stay with us, because this story might change the way you understand healing. In this video, I will reveal step by step the powerful ritual that Thea learned, how to prepare this oil at home, and most importantly, how to activate its energy to heal from within. So stay until the end, because this is not just a remedy, it is a method of liberation that could change your life. Thea walked slowly through the cobblestone streets of an old market, lightly leaning on her cane. Years ago, her stride had been firm and determined, but now each step came with a sharp pain in her knees. She had tried everything, ointments, therapies, massages, but nothing seemed to provide lasting relief. Doctors always told her the same thing. It's your age, ma'am. You have to learn to live with it. But Thea refused to accept that answer, not after spending her entire life caring for others. Now it was her turn to find a real solution. The market's hustle and bustle surrounded her. Vendors offering their goods, the scent of fresh fruits, the sound of metal clinking at artisan stalls. But then something made her stop. A peculiar smell. It wasn't the food, the spices, or the incense that some merchants burn to attract customers. It was something deeper, older. A warm aroma with a hint of wood and a sweet note, like cinnamon slowly roasting over a fire. Without realizing it, Thea turned her head and saw a small stall at the far end of the market, hidden under the shade of a worn-out red canopy. The stall had no flashy signs or pushy vendors, just a table covered with glass jars containing golden and greenish liquids, some with leaves and roots floating inside. Behind that table, an old Buddhist monk was staring at her intently. He wore a saffron robe that absorbed the last light of the sunset, and his wrinkled skin seemed shaped by time itself. But what struck Thea the most were his eyes, dark, deep, serene, as if they could see through her skin and uncover the secrets of her soul. Thea felt a shiver, not of fear but of something else, something she couldn't explain. The monk barely smiled, with that calmness only those who have understood the mysteries of life possess. And then he spoke in a slow, deep voice, as if every word held centuries of knowledge. "It's no coincidence that you've come here." Thea narrowed her eyes. "I know what you're looking for, but I can only give it to you if you're willing to listen to a story." Thea felt her heart beat faster. How could this man know what she was seeking? How could he be so sure? For a moment she thought about leaving. She could turn around and keep walking, convincing herself that he was just another vendor in the market. But something inside her, a silent whisper in her chest, told her that this encounter was no coincidence. And so, with tired knees but a burning curiosity in her gaze, Thea decided to stay and listen to what this monk was about to reveal, a revelation that would change her life forever. Thea looked at the old monk with a mix of intrigue and skepticism. On the table, among the jars glimmering in the sunset light, the monk picked up one in particular. Its glass was thick and old, containing a golden liquid that seemed to change shades, shifting between amber and copper as he moved it. When the monk uncorked it, an intense aroma filled the air, warm and spicy, a blend of bay leaf's depth and the penetrating sweetness of roasted cinnamon. Thea closed her eyes for a moment. Something in that scent awakened a strange feeling in her, as if she had smelled it before, in another time, in a distant place. "This is bay leaf and cinnamon oil," the monk's voice echoed in her mind. Thea opened her eyes and looked at the jar carefully. "Bay leaf and cinnamon oil?" she asked cautiously. "Does it help with pain?" The monk smiled with the patience of someone who has heard that question many times before. Much more than that, he said, slowly turning the jar in his hand. This oil was used by the Aeolian warrior monks. Thea frowned. The Aeolian? Yes, warriors of body and soul. Men who dedicated their lives to discipline, training, and connecting with their inner energy. They spent hours practicing, striking wood, jumping, moving with a strength that few could endure. But their bodies suffered, their joints ached, and when pain threatened to stop them, they used this. The monk delicately turned the jar, letting the sunlight highlight its golden reflections. This oil not only eased their pain, it strengthened them. It allowed them to keep training without injuries, without letting suffering overcome them. Thea felt a chill down her spine and looked at the jar again. Could it be true? But if it's so powerful, she whispered, why doesn't everyone use it? The old man looked at her intently. Because not just anyone can use it. Silence fell between them, growing thicker. Thea felt her chest tighten slightly. She didn't understand why, but those words felt like a warning. Why? She finally asked. The monk carefully set the jar back on the table, then spoke with the same calm he had maintained all along. Because if you use it without the proper ritual, its effect will disappear, and the pain will return even stronger. Thea felt a slight tingling on the back of her neck. What do you mean by that? The monk sighed as if he had been waiting for that question. This oil is not like any other. It's not just about applying it and waiting for it to work. If you use it without preparation, without following the correct method, you will only awaken the memory of pain in your body. Thea swallowed hard. Memory of pain? The monk nodded slowly. The body is wise, Thea, much wiser than we believe. It doesn't just feel pain, it remembers it. If the oil is applied without respect, without intention, without the ritual, your body will interpret its warmth as a signal to bring back everything you tried to forget. A shiver ran down Thea's spine. Suddenly she felt the urge to pull away, to say she didn't want to know more. But at the same time, a voice inside urged her to keep listening. And what is that ritual? She asked quietly. The monk smiled. That's the most important part of the story. With a serene gesture, he invited her to sit down. What he was about to reveal would be much more than just a simple recipe. Thea settled on a small wooden bench while the monk placed the oil jar in front of her, as if he were about to share ancient knowledge that only a few deserved to receive. Listen carefully, Thea, the old man said in a calm voice. The oil by itself has no power. It's just a vehicle, a channel. What truly activates its energy is you. Thea looked at him with curiosity. Me? The monk nodded. Yes, the intention, the movement, the energy you put into applying it, all of that influences the outcome. If you just rub it on like any ointment, you'll only feel a fleeting relief. But if you use it the right way, if you follow the ritual, then the pain will vanish. Thea felt a lump in her throat. She had heard about natural remedies before, but this was different. There was something about the way the monk spoke, the certainty in his tone, that made her believe him. Tell me how to do it, she asked. The monk took the jar, opened it, and let Thea inhale its scent once more. Then he poured a few golden drops into the palm of his hand and showed her. Step 1. Before applying it, you must rub it between your hands until you feel a subtle warmth. Thea watched as the monk slowly rubbed his hands together, making the oil glow even more under the dim market light. The heat activates the properties of bay leaf and cinnamon. It's like waking the oil up, letting it know it's about to fulfill its purpose. Thea took a bit of the oil in her hands and repeated the motion. As she rubbed it, she felt the mixture become warmer, as if responding to her touch. The monk watched her with approval. Now the second step. He placed his hands on his own knees and began to move them in gentle circles. You must apply it in circular motions on your knees, but counterclockwise. Thea raised her eyebrows. Why counterclockwise? Because your body has already learned the suffering. But if you do it the other way around, it's like undoing an invisible knot within you. Thea swallowed hard. Everything made so much sense. She followed the monk's motion, feeling how her hands gently slid over her knees with the oil, leaving a warm sensation on her skin. And now the final step, the old man said. You must speak to your body. Thea frowned. Speak to it? Yes, your body listens more than you think. Repeat this mantra while rubbing the oil. My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away. Thea hesitated for a moment, but something in the monk's intense gaze urged her to try. My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away, she whispered. As she repeated the words, she felt something different. The oil's warmth seemed to intensify. Her hands moved more smoothly, as if something inside them was loosening, releasing. The monk nodded with approval. That's how you activate the oil's power. That's how the body and mind connect. Thea looked up. So it's just about applying the oil in that way? The monk remained silent for a moment. Then, with the same calm he had maintained all along, he said, Not exactly. Thea felt a chill. What do you mean? The monk took a slow breath before responding. This ritual opens a channel in your body, but also in your energy. If there's something inside you that hasn't healed, the pain can return, and with more intensity. Thea's heart raced. Something that hasn't healed? The old man looked at her deeply. Yes, physical pain is just a reflection of the burdens we carry within. A heavy silence fell between them. Thea felt a slight tremor in her hands. And if I don't know what I'm carrying inside? The monk smiled with the wisdom of someone who has seen many lives go by. Your body will tell you. And so, with one last mysterious glance, the monk gestured for her to continue the ritual. What Thea didn't know was that she was about to discover a truth that would change her life forever. Thea felt the warmth of the oil soaking into her skin, the smoothness with which her hands moved over her knees. But before continuing the ritual, the monk stopped her with a slight motion of his hand. Wait. Thea looked up, puzzled. What's wrong? The monk watched her with that infinite calm, as if reading beyond the visible. His deep, steady voice sounded like an echo resonating within her. If you don't release what you're carrying inside, the oil won't work. Thea felt a shiver run down her spine. What are you talking about? The monk didn't avert his gaze. The pain you feel doesn't just come from your bones or your age, Thea. There's something more, something you've been carrying for too long. Thea frowned. But I just have a physical problem, she protested. I'm not sad or worried. I just want to relieve the pain in my knees. The old man let out a slight smile, as if he had heard those words many times before. Are you sure? Thea opened her mouth to reply, but something inside made her stop. The monk continued. The body and mind are one single fabric, intertwined in ways few understand. Sometimes persistent pain is just a message, a reminder of something that was never healed. Thea's breathing grew quicker. I don't understand. The monk took a calm breath. Tell me, Thea, when did this pain start? Thea blinked, surprised by the question. Her first instinct was to answer years ago, but when she tried to remember exactly when it started, a thought crossed her mind like a flash. It was like opening a door that had been closed for a long time. Thea's heart beat faster as she remembered. The pain in her knees started the same year her sister passed away. A silence fell between them. Thea felt a slight lump in her throat. It can't be, she whispered. Does it have something to do with my pain? The monk nodded. More than you think. Sometimes sorrow, guilt, resentment. They don't express themselves in words, but in the body. They settle within us in the most vulnerable places, and over time they turn into physical pain. Thea felt a mix of disbelief and fear. But how is that possible? The monk squinted as if about to reveal ancient knowledge. Your knees are the foundation of your path. They symbolize flexibility, the ability to move forward, to advance in life. If you carry something too heavy, something you haven't let go of, over time your knees will start to fail. A shiver ran down Thea's spine. She had never thought of it that way. So the oil won't work if I keep carrying this inside me? The monk nodded slowly. The oil will help, but it can't do everything for you. It's like a key, but you must open the door yourself. Thea felt her chest tighten. How am I supposed to let go of something I didn't even know I was carrying? And what should I do? She asked, her voice tinged with fear and hope. The monk looked at her with infinite patience. You must face it. Thea felt her breath quicken. How? The old man took the oil jar and turned it between his hands, letting the sunset light illuminate its golden reflections. In the next step of the ritual, I'll show you how... Thea swallowed hard. She had no idea what was coming next, but something inside her told her that she was about to discover a truth that would change her life forever. That night, Thea arrived home with the laurel and cinnamon oil jar held tightly in her hands. The dim light from her lamp illuminated the small wooden table where she carefully placed it. She looked at it with both suspicion and expectation. The old monk had given her clear instructions. She had to follow each step precisely. Rub the oil between her hands, apply it with circular movements, and repeat the mantra. But now that she was alone, something within her trembled. Whether from the fatigue of the day, the intensity of the monk's words, or the weight of a premonition pressing on her chest. She took a deep breath and opened the jar. Immediately the deep scent of laurel and cinnamon filled the room. It was warm, enveloping, like a whisper from the past. She took a few drops of oil and let them fall into the palm of her hand, just as the monk had shown her. She rubbed her hands slowly until she felt a slight warmth. Then, with the gentleness of someone afraid to wake something dormant, she brought her hands to her knees and began to massage them in circular motions counterclockwise. "My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away," she whispered softly, as if the air in the room could hear her. At first she felt nothing unusual, just the warmth of the oil spreading over her skin. But suddenly, a strange sensation enveloped her. It was as if a wave of heat slowly rose from her hands to her legs, spreading through her body like a slow fire. Thea closed her eyes, and then it happened. A memory, not just any thought, not a vague image, but a vivid, clear memory, as if she had travelled through time. She saw herself years ago in a room full of shadows and unspoken words. She was arguing with her sister, a fight that was never resolved. The words were harsh, cruel, the anger in her eyes, the frustration in her voice, the pain contained in every phrase, and then silence, the worst of all, the kind that separates, that cools, that leaves everything unresolved. Thea squeezed her eyes shut, feeling the weight of guilt on her chest. She had lost her sister shortly after that argument and never got to apologize, never got to tell her how much she loved her. Tears began to stream down her cheeks, but her hands kept massaging the oil into her knees. Now she understood. The pain she had carried for so long wasn't just physical. It was the weight of that argument, the regret of not healing that bond, the memory of her sister living inside her, reminding her with every pang in her knees of what she never got to resolve. Thea let out a sob, but instead of pulling her hands away, she continued massaging, letting the warmth of the oil seep not only into her skin, but also into her soul. "My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away," she said again, this time with more firmness, more truth. With each word, with each circle traced on her skin, she felt something inside her dissolve, the weight, the guilt, the resentment, and with it, the pain. The tears kept falling, but they were no longer of suffering, they were of release. For the first time in years, Thea felt lightness in her knees and in her heart. When she opened her eyes, everything in the room remained the same, but something within her had changed forever. Thea remained seated, her hands still on her knees, feeling the warmth of the oil soaked into her skin. Her fingers, still moist with the golden mixture, trembled slightly, not from the cold, but from something deeper, something she couldn't fully explain but knew was happening. But this time something was different. She had lived with the weight of that pain for so long that she had almost grown accustomed to it. It was part of her daily life, her way of moving, her way of living. She had resigned herself to thinking it would always be there, like an inevitable burden. But now, for the first time in years, that weight was gone. The pain that had accompanied her like a persistent shadow, like a stone within her body, had disappeared. It wasn't immediate, it wasn't a sudden jolt or a miraculous relief. It was a slow fading, gentle, like mist dissipating with the first rays of the sun. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. The air entered her chest differently. Her breathing was calmer, freer, her body lighter, as if something invisible had loosened its grip. And then she broke into tears, not desperate crying, not crying from pain. It was a different kind of crying, one that came from the deepest part of her being, a cry of liberation. Each tear that fell down her cheeks wasn't a lament but a release, one for each burden she had carried unknowingly, one for resentment, one for guilt, for the fear she had repressed for so long, for the unspoken words, the phrases she never dared to say, for the forgiveness she never asked for, and the forgiveness she never gave herself. For the first time in years, Thea stopped carrying the weight of the past. It was at that moment that she understood. The pain that had bound her for so long didn't just come from her knees. It wasn't just the wear and tear of the years or a physical condition she had to accept. It was an emotional wound her body had held onto, a memory her soul had not yet let go of. The monk was right, the oil wasn't just a physical cure. It was a channel, a key to unlocking what her own body refused to release. Thea opened her eyes and looked at her hands, still covered with the oil. Her fingers felt lighter, as if even the weight of her skin had changed. She slowly stood up, cautiously waiting to feel the usual pain when getting up, the familiar sting in her knees, that constant reminder of her suffering. But nothing happened. The stings that used to accompany her every move were simply gone. She took a step, then another, walking around her room, almost expecting the pain to return at any moment, as it had so many times before. But it didn't. She stopped in front of the mirror and stared at her reflection. Something was different. Her eyes no longer looked dull or sunken under the weight of the years. Her face, though bathed in tears, seemed lighter, calmer, more alive. She placed a hand on her chest and took a deep breath. It was the first time in a long while that she felt she was truly breathing. She looked at the oil jar still in her other hand, examining it under the lamp's light. It wasn't magic. It wasn't a miracle. It was proof that when the body speaks, it's because the soul has something to say. Physical pain isn't always just physical. Sometimes it's a message, an echo of the past still resonating within us. And if we learn to listen, healing comes naturally. With a final whisper, she closed her eyes and repeated the mantra once more, but this time with absolute certainty in her heart. My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away. And for the first time it was completely true. With the jar in her hands, Thea understood that this oil wasn't just a blend of ingredients. It was an ancient secret of healing, a tool to release not just physical pain, but also the inner burdens we carry. Now you too can prepare it at home. It's not complicated, but it requires patience and respect for the process. This oil is not like any other. It's not just about relieving pain in your knees or any part of your body. It's a channel, a key that, if used correctly, helps unlock trapped memories and emotions that have remained stored without us realizing it. How to make the oil at home. You will need just a few ingredients: 4 fresh bay leaves and 1 cinnamon stick, half a cup of olive or almond oil. Bay leaves have been used for centuries for their healing properties. They improve circulation, reduce inflammation, and relieve joint pain. Cinnamon, on the other hand, is a powerful anti-inflammatory and an activator of internal energy. The oil, whether olive or almond, serves as the vehicle that carries these properties to your skin. Preparation. Lightly crush the bay leaves and cinnamon stick. You don't need to grind them completely, just press them enough to release their essential oils. Place these ingredients in a clean, dry glass jar. Pour the half cup of oil into the jar, making sure the bay leaves and cinnamon are completely submerged. The most important part, let the jar sit in a cool, dark place for 7 days. Don't rush. During this time, the essence of the bay leaves and cinnamon will merge with the oil, imparting their energy and healing properties. How to use the oil. After a week, the oil is ready for use, but there's one detail you must not forget. Before applying it, warm a few drops between your hands. You don't need fire or to boil it. Just rub it gently in your palms until you feel a subtle warmth. This heat awakens the oil's compounds and activates its energy. Now comes the most important part, the ritual. It's not just about rubbing it on your skin like any other ointment. You must apply it in circular motions over your knees, moving counterclockwise. Why counterclockwise? Because it helps break the memory of pain. The body stores memories more than we imagine. If you apply the oil in the wrong direction, you reinforce that memory. But if you do it the other way, you help release, unlock, and erase the imprint of suffering that has been trapped. While massaging, repeat this mantra softly or in your mind. My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away. Don't just say it as a simple phrase, say it with conviction, with the certainty that, like Thea, you too can let go of what has been weighing you down. Don't do it just as a physical remedy. Do it as a ritual of liberation, because when the body lets go of pain, the soul heals too. Thea closed her eyes for a moment. Her breathing was calm and steady. No rush, no pain. Just her body, and that newfound lightness she never thought she'd feel again. Often we seek physical remedies, convinced that the problem lies in our body, in our bones, in age, in wear and tear. But the truth is, pain doesn't always originate there. Sometimes it's the reflection of something deeper, something that has remained trapped within us, waiting to be released. Thea had realized that her pain didn't just come from her knees, but from the weight of her own story, from the resentment she never let go of, the words she never spoke, the farewell she never gave. When she finally allowed herself to let it go, her body responded immediately. Because that's how healing works. It's not just a matter of applying a remedy and waiting for results. It's a process of connection, of understanding. If you decide to try this ritual, don't do it in haste or as just another recipe. When you prepare the oil, do it with intention. When you apply it, do it with respect. When you massage your body, do it with the certainty that each movement is helping to release what you no longer need. Rub the oil between your hands until you feel its warmth. Massage in circles counterclockwise and repeat the mantra, not just with your mouth but with your heart. My body heals, my energy flows, the pain fades away. Feel how each word resonates within you. It's not just about the oil. It's about the intention you put into using it. It's about what you're willing to let go. If you want to experience the power of this method for yourself, follow these steps and observe the results. But remember, the greatest secret isn't in the oil, it's in your heart.